For days, rather, Democrats have been highlighting, some might even say hammering, JD Vance for policy positions and statements he's made about women, in part due to this clip from 2021, which has since, well, there's no other way to put it, gone viral.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
I want to bring in Amanda Hunter. She is a gender and politics expert for the nonpartisan project Gender on the Ballot. It's great to have you with us. So I want to play for you something that JD Vance has recently said in defense of his comments to sort of put it in his contemporary context, what we just heard. Let's play that, and I want to get your reaction.
There's a deeper point here, Megan. It's not a criticism of people who don't have children. I explicitly said in my remarks, despite the fact the media has lied about this, that this is not about criticizing people who, for various reasons, didn't have kids. This is about criticizing the Democratic Party for becoming anti-family and anti-child.
Put those two together for us, if you could.
Well, Major, I know that in every election cycle, much is made about how women make up so many critical voting blocks. And so having a mainstream candidate for vice president who has so many extremist views that affect women on his record, certainly the childless cat lady has become a meme and a little bit of a joke, but suggesting that people that don't have children should be taxed at a higher rate, or speaking out against no-fault divorces and suggesting that people should stay in even violent marriages are just the types of policies that will alienate women voters, and I think have contributed to his approval rating being so low the last week and a half.
Amanda, this strikes me as an instance of reading the room. Now, when JD Vance is talking to Tucker Carlson, he can read that room and say childless cat ladies lands perfectly. All the judges give him a 10 to invoke Olympics metaphor, since it is the season to do that. But it's a bigger room now. It is a much bigger room with lots of other voices and lots of other interpretations and sifting of what you actually meant and what the impact of that is.
Well, you're absolutely right, Major. And our polling for Gender on the Ballot of women voters for the last couple of years has reflected that women are tired of the vitriol in politics. They feel like they're on a roller coaster that they can't get off. A lot of women are just simply tuning out sometimes when they can't take it anymore. And so these types of caustic remarks would likely continue to alienate those women who are already feeling so stressed out. And you're right, it is a big room when you're running for president. You need a lot of people in that room, and especially in key states.
Amanda, I want to shift the focus a second away from JD Vance and toward Vice President Harris. I well remember the 2016 presidential campaign, and one of the things that Hillary Clinton talked about aspirationally was breaking through the glass ceiling, and it, to the eyes of some, meant that the campaign was more about her and her ambitions, or her being the one and only person who could break this metaphorical glass ceiling, or the real one in American presidential politics. Vice President Harris has not used that kind of rhetoric. Do you consider that an important shift? And if so, why?
Well, I think we're in a completely different place than we were in 2016. When you think about all of the events that women voters have lived through, think about the various women's marches, the Me Too movement, the Trump presidency. We've seen that women disproportionately were affected by the COVID-19 crisis and the economic crisis after that. And so it makes sense that we're thinking about this election differently, and women voters have a lot at stake. We've seen in our polling just last year, a year after the Dobbs decision, that a majority of women voters personally believed that abortion should be legal and available. And of course, the vice president has been a leading voice on that issue. So it makes sense that this conversation that's only been going on for a week and a half is about a lot more than gender. But we know that as a woman, she will be held to a different and higher standard in executive office.
And I've been around presidential politics for a very long time. 1992 was my first campaign. I am well familiar with campaign sloganeering around who likes families more. That is a standard part of our presidential campaign fare. How does it land differently, or does it land differently with Vice President Harris?
Well, we've seen in research that women really are on a double-edged sword. Voters, if women have young children, are concerned about how they're going to balance caring for the children and doing the job, and say they don't have those same concerns about men, even though they acknowledge that that is a double standard. And yet, if women don't have children of their own, they worry that they may not be in touch with their lives. Vice President Harris has done a great job, even in the 2020 election, talking about her extended family and letting voters know that she still has people in her life that she cares for and has to make decisions for, including her stepchildren, even if maybe she has not had her own children. But it's no surprise that that may be used against her, given the long entrenched stereotypes that voters have around motherhood and families.
Amanda Hunter, thank you very much for your perspective.
Thank you.